Welcome to the Provider's Report, where we delve into the world of value-based healthcare. Our mission is to empower healthcare providers with the knowledge and tools they need to deliver exceptional patient care. Each episode, we explore best practices, innovative strategies, and real-world examples of how to achieve the highest standards in patient communication and outcomes. Join us as we transform the future of healthcare, one conversation at a time.
Today's episode is sponsored by the Smart Chiropractor and their new book called The Payday Practice. So I'm sure you guys have heard of people like Seth Godin, Gary Vaynerchuk, and Tim Ferriss. How do you think they would build a chiropractic practice? The answer is in The Payday Practice, a brand new book by Dr. Jeff Langmaid and Dr. Jason Deitch. This new book will show you exactly how to cover your monthly expenses in one day, every single month, guaranteed. That's huge. Whether you want to cover your monthly expenses for your physical practice or create a digital healthcare practice for the future, this book is your blueprint for building it, launching it, and growing it. Get your free copy today at www.thepaydaypractice.com. Their step-by-step guide to financial freedom will show you how to 1. Set your dreams, visions, and goals using their financial freedom formula. 2. Build a health tribe of people who are engaged and ready to go all in with your business. 3. Create an irresistible membership offer for your clients and patients. And 4. Launch and sell out your membership in the next 30 days. The Payday Practice will show you the exact step-by-step process that you can use to generate monthly recurring revenue in your practice. Get your free copy today at www.thepaydaypractice.com. That's www.thepaydaypractice.com. I already got mine, guys, so it's your turn next. I also recommend checking out The Smart Chiropractor on Facebook and also their Instagram page, which is at The Smart Chiro, for more amazing knowledge to take your practice to the next level. Hey everybody, we are back with another episode of our Enneagram series, and today we're going to be talking to an Enneagram Type 6, which is also known as the Loyalist. Kelly is a nurse practitioner, and we're really happy to have her on. So Kelly, thanks so much for being here.
Thanks for having me.
Our pleasure. So before we dive in, I just want to give our listeners just a little bit of a background into the Loyalist and how things operate. So I just wanted to touch on some really key characteristics, and I will be curious to ask you if these stand out to you. So from one of Enneagram Ashton's posts, everybody who's listening knows I'm obsessed with her Instagram account. She's phenomenal. So just a couple quick things that are really common with Type 6s. They tend to be committed to their people, thoughtful, prepared for anything, responsible, a problem solver, honest and trustworthy, organized. They value feeling safe and secure, and they tend to overanalyze things just a little bit. That's just a brief run through. Have you found that a lot of those things are common with you as a Type 6?
Very much, more than I ever would have thought. And I'm like, well, I'm not that. And I'm like, wait a minute. Yeah, I really am. That comes up.
I love the Enneagram so much. When did you find out about your type?
It had to been 3 or 4 years ago. I actually had a counselor tell me, hey, look at this. Like, you should look at these and check it out. And I kind of resisted for a little bit. And then started having friends talk about it. And was in a book club, and they read the book, The Road Back to You, I think is the name of it, but it's an Enneagram book. And that's kind of how I got started with it. And pretty much everyone pinned me before I had a chance to really pin myself, but
I love that.
They were very accurate.
Was anything shocking to you about that type?
I'm trying to think.
Or did it all just make sense?
I think most of it just made sense. It's kind of like personal. I just like kind of fell into place. Some things I'm still like, I don't know. When I'll see people post on like their Enneagram traits and how they fit into a particular holiday season or anything, I'm like, that's not necessarily me. But then other times I'm like, yep, that's me. Totally 100%. So
yeah, it's amazing. I think it's really been fun for me to talk to all these different types during the series too, because even just having, sitting down and having a conversation, you can kind of pull little pieces together that match with something you read about XYZ type, which has been really fun. Now, give us a little bit of a background. I know you're obviously a nurse practitioner. What field do you specialize in? What are you currently doing professionally? Just give us a little background into who you are and what you're doing.
So I worked as a nurse for years in pediatrics and went back to school. And the nursing world and just medical world, sometimes the market's kind of strange. So I went and did family medicine. And I have worked for last 7 years as a nurse practitioner, kind of done a couple different things. I've done urgent care, I've done family medicine, some pediatrics, and now I'm actually working in endocrinology.
That's awesome.
And my specialty, I worked as pediatric endocrinology nurse and have now made way more into the adult world.
Yeah, that's really cool. And I love to hear that because you can learn a lot from bouncing around in that way. And I mean, this is why we created the podcast. You can learn from other specialties a ton. And that's the whole premise of what Better Doctor Project is. Like, even if you've worked with peds before or adults or critical care versus geriatric care, like, I mean, there's so many different specialties out there, but we're missing pieces of the puzzle if we aren't communicating with each other. And it's so easy to fall into that pediatric bubble or fall into the musculoskeletal health bubble. For example, that's what I have to deal with. And it's important to just break away and, pick up tricks and ideas from other providers.
It's been really interesting because you really do see how much everything's overlaps and how just people are people across the board, from
I love that.
babies to adults. But it also it's interesting to kind of mesh and figure out what fits for you too, because it's not for everybody. And I think that's something as an Enneagram makes a difference too. I've noticed it's hard to not stay in one field and feel like it's okay to leave it.
Yes.
And then other times it's like, okay, but this is a much better fit for me. And this is not working out at the same time.
So you're loving where you are now.
I love what I do. I don't like the paperwork and the charting. That part is getting everyone right now.
It is. It definitely is. And obviously with COVID in general, obviously healthcare has just spiked, but it's just not calming down. And everybody I talk to is dealing with the same thing. I don't know if it's because of the lack of care for a couple years and then now we're getting hit. I don't know.
It definitely, it's different. It's a different busyness and expectation. I think because everyone is home for so long, everyone expects everyone else to be able to get done quicker. And it has not translated in medicine, but the expectation's there. So
how do you handle that as a type 6? Because I feel like you guys are so prepared all the time and just ready for anything. I mean, what's that been like?
I think it's draining. I think it just adds to the burnout a lot more because you feel like you have to do all these things and be ready for it. And then it also comes to the point where sometimes you wing it, you just get tired and you just wing it and you kind of try to just figure it out and go with the flow. But then it's the stressfulness of like, I'm trying to go with the flow, but I don't feel like I'm getting everything done or I'm ready for it and I'm not checking off the list. And so that kind of, I'm not prepared, but it's which one it is. And just that balance is hard as a 6 to fit in healthcare.
Well, and I think you guys do give off the impression that you are in that manner. So people probably look to you for a sense of comfort as well. She's got it all together. I'm going to ask her for advice, or she always knows what to do in this situation. Maybe I should go by her. And so that might also lead to some more pressure buildup, maybe.
I think a little bit. I think it's interesting in an NP versus like a nurse, because I've done both roles, that like you do have to feel more prepared because patients expect you so much more prepared. You have to be able to have answer. And I think as a 6, there is a certain ability to you just want to take care of people. And so that kind of loyal to people makes it easy just to you just get chatty with people, and it makes it easier to kind of sometimes wing it, but it can also make it a little bit stressful because you feel like you were the whole second guessing thing and analyzing things. And did I do this right? Should I have done this different? That plays more, I think, effect where I am now. And with my career, because you don't want to miss things and you don't want to mess up and you don't want to, did I tell them the right thing? Should I have done it differently?
Yes. Would you say that's the hardest part about being an Enneagram 6 in healthcare then, would be that overanalyzing?
I think that's the hardest part of being a 6 in general. It's just the overanalyzing and the worry about it. Am I doing the right things? Am I not? Did I make someone happy? Did I hurt their feelings? Did I not? Or what do they think of me? And that pressure is a lot. And definitely in the field of in a field that is now going to patient satisfaction scores, and that being such a heavy weight with things, it's hard because you feel like you're not doing what you're created to do in medicine, but at the same time, you also want to meet the mark. You want to please people at the same time, and so that kind of that's a weird bridge as a 6 to worry about it, but then also try to please people at the same time.
Yeah. How do you even fight that? I mean, have you found some good strategies since you've done multiple fields or anything like that?
I think because I've been in medicine long enough. I've probably been in medicine 12 years, 13 years So working even from being, I was worked as a CNA in nursing school, I've done the nursing thing. And I think you realize it's hard still when a patient doesn't want to see me as a provider, they rather see somebody else. It's like, that's hard because you feel like you've let people down, but learning that you're not a good fit for everybody and that you can't make everybody happy. And I think the longer I'm in it, it's more, I can't make everybody happy. And that's healthcare because I'm not going to give everyone good news all the time.
That's such a good reminder. We see that a lot. I mean, I feel like in any kind of specialty, you get those patients who either they straight up tell you that maybe you're not a good fit, or you just kind of get that vibe. And it's interesting because, I mean, I haven't been in practice 12 years yet. I'm about 5, but I've kind of gotten to the point where if I do realize someone is not a good fit, or if I'm not the right fit or something, I straight up tell them, like, let's go find somebody who is. But if you would have asked, the version of me 5 years ago to say something like that, there's no way I could have done it.
Definitely comes with like being more seasoned, and the more seasoned you are, the more you can be at peace with it. Even if you don't like it, it's easier to be like, yeah, that's okay. No big deal. Find someone better, which is a beauty of healthcare too, because there's so many of us, there's so many personalities, and you don't get along with everybody.
Yes.
And so it's nice to have options and have people you can see and trust and know, like, it's okay. Go see someone else. There's always, I always tell patients if they come in with nervous with things, I'm like, it's okay for you to have a second opinion. Like if someone's mad at you for a second opinion, they weren't a good fit as a provider.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a great point too. Well, on the flip side, what do you think is your biggest strength as a type 6 being in healthcare?
I think fighting for people, like the loyalist side of being able to fight for people. Sometimes it has helped to go over and beyond, or be able to look at things and be like, okay, so we can't get this medicine, or we can't figure out what's going on. What else do we need to do? And be able to kind of to be more of a driving force, or be able to get staff to help be more of a driving source. And there's a good thing too, healthcare is such a crazy field. A lot of times we think about it such as a patient directed, but there's a lot of staff shortages. It's been up in the news. People have talked about like healthcare. So be able to fight for your staff at the same time. I think there's a good thing as a 6 is like, hey, we need more staff. Why aren't we getting this? How can we support the staff? And this knowing that the staff feel taken care of too. Like that's always been important to me, because especially working in different fields in medicine, being different levels and different like kind of hierarchies, knowing that you're taken care of and people appreciate you makes a big difference. And it makes teamwork better. It makes patient care better. And so I think as a 6, like there's part of me that just kind of reaches out to staff, to patients, and kind of looks at things a little bit differently in that regard.
It's interesting that you say that, because in my head, I think that would make a type 6 really good at things like administration or patient advocacy or employee advocacy, things like that. I guess I would be interested to see if some of the people who are doing that in the world are type 6s. Yeah. But like the second you said all of that, I'm like, you guys should be fighting for all of this. You're perfect for it. I love it. Now, do you find that obviously 3 or 4 years ago, you found the Enneagram? Do you think it's also helped your relationship with patients? I mean, do you look at them differently now that you know about these types, or how has it brought or changed your practice in any way?
I don't know if it's really changed my patient practice.
Mm-hmm.
Trying to think, has it? I don't know. It really changed patient practice. I think more patient practice just comes for it. I may have understood the way I practice and why it's easy to deal with things, or why I get frustrated or stressed with things more. And that's helped some, but I don't know that I've had I don't know, it's made me do anything differently. Personally.
Yeah, I've kind of been the same way. I feel like I can't meet with a patient and automatically be like, you're a type 7 or you're a type 1. But what I have been able to pinpoint is I can usually tell if they're a personality type that's just very different than mine. Like, how obviously some of them are more outgoing, some of them are more reserved, some are more analytical, some are more creative. So like in the generic sense, I can kind of be like, okay, this patient is not going to meet me where I'm at. So maybe I have to be like a different version of my type 1 self in order for them to have a good experience. But it's funny if I talk, so I'm a type 1. If I'm communicating with a fellow type 1 or a type 5, usually I can let my inner nerd and my inner type A, I can let that thing out. But you can kind of get a vibe when someone is like not near your realm. And I will say I never was in tune with that until now.
There's definitely different personalities. And I work with 5 5 doctors and 2 other nurse practitioners. So we have a pretty big
Wow.
group. And they're definitely patients that I've seen. Us as nurse practitioners, we kind of see everyone's patients. We kind of are the interim in between them, following up with doctors, which kind of works out great because it's so hard to get in with appointments. We have 5 different personality doctors. And so when I see patients, I'm like, yeah, I'm going to let you follow up with this doctor, or like, I'm going to lean you this way.
Yeah.
Or you'll see patients bounce around because they just bump heads with the doctors. And so I think there definitely is personalities that come out with Enneagram that you can see, like, yeah, we don't quite think the same. We don't process the same. And we're definitely different personalities, and expectations come up too. I think you see expectations come out in the Enneagram of how things should be handled. And with patients, sometimes their expectations come out too, like how they have a personality and like how they handle if they want to take a medicine or if they want to take a treatment or what they think they should do with diet and exercise. So
and the longer I'm in practice, I feel the more vocal they are becoming, which is great because they're advocating for themselves. But it's important to recognize, meeting them where they're at, meeting them halfway, not referring them to someone they're just totally not going to get along with or not resonate with, and understand what they're willing to make, what changes they're willing to make in life and which ones they're like, yeah, I'm going to pass on that one. Oh, I love it. I love it. Do you have any specific examples of maybe a case where you definitely had to fight for that patient and they could kind of see that your personality type was able to come through for them in that moment? Like you kind of mentioned fighting for medication or maybe insurance coverage. Can you think of any specific example?
And there's been so much lately, unfortunately, because insurance regulates so many things on what they decide a patient should get or should not. We have patients being endocrine, we deal with diabetes, and checking blood sugars helps with diabetes. It's one of the big things. But when you're working with patients, not everyone can prick their finger. We have patients with Parkinson's disease, people who have had strokes, people who have had other conditions. And I know there have definitely been times where I'm willing to write the letter, do the peer-to-peer review, or do something to get them a continuous glucose monitor. So instead of poking their finger 5 times a day, they can easily take it. And, patients, autonomy is big. They don't want to have somebody else to do for them, especially as people age. You really want to be able to be independent and to take care of yourself. And so I know can think of a couple patients that I've had to write letters just to get insurance cover it. Doesn't always work because sometimes insurance is like, well, they just disagree with things, which is very frustrating as a six.
Yeah.
They're like, I know this will be right. This is what should be done. And fight you back.
Well, and it seems simple, you have a reason for it. Like, why would it not? I've never even thought. So my world is so different from endocrinology. So I've never even thought about that. There are some people who totally cannot do that test on their own. Oh my goodness.
I have patients who can't see. I have patients who, different things. And I definitely, and people who have different dexterity issues. And it's been interesting because insurance will only approve certain things if you're on certain medicines. And it's like, okay, but wouldn't this make it easier to take care of them and have healthier outcomes? And it's like fighting a brick wall. And I know that, I feel like the 6 is like the kind of loyalty to the patients. I want to take care of the patients and do what's best for him. Definitely comes out in those instances. Same with some medicine. Sometimes insurance is like, well, they have to be on this medicine first. And it's like, but why? This is a better medicine. It's easier for them to use. And it can be a fight.
Healthcare algorithms are honestly for consistency and ease and not patient outcomes. And that's what bothers me the most. Like, I understand why they exist. We all have scientific brains, but to not be able to override when things just clinically make sense, the type 1 in me will never understand that. Because healthcare is just not black and white. And we want the world to be, I want the world to be, but it really can't be that way when people are so individualistic and different.
It would make it easier. It would make it easier to feel like you're fighting for your patients and taking care of people, and instead of like you're just checking a box. And I think it's really hard as a 6 to feel like I'm always having to check a box for someone else, because it's not what's best for the patient half the time. It's, did I do all these things? Do I have everything in the chart? And I spend some time doing that, and I'm like, I could see a zillion patients a day, it feels like. I can't keep up with the paperwork side of it. And it just feels like you're letting down that other part of it. 6, I feel like I let down the patients because I'm not able to do it all for them, and having to be able to let that go and be like, well, this is what all I can do. And I have a family and I have young kids and I have to be able to spend time with them. And it's okay if the patients don't get everything.
It's so funny that you said that, because that's a great segue. We are actually recording an episode next month with Eva Minkoff, and I'll make sure that you can see her stuff. She has already put out a really great TED Talk, and it's specifically about that. A lot of people talk about the healthcare system being broken and all of these things. We talk about all the bad things with health insurance and providers and companies and all of that, but we forget that there are reasons behind burnout, and there's reasons why physicians are also struggling. All we hear about is, oh, they spent 5 minutes with me. Oh, they didn't really listen to me. Oh, they were in front of their computer the whole time. But when you actually talk to the provider directly, the vast majority of the time, they're like, well, during that minute or during that visit, I had to spend X number of minutes doing this. Then I had to check this box. Then I had to make sure my chart was done. And then I had to do this. And most of the time, they just wish that they had more time with the patient.
Oh, I love to. I actually find myself charting 2 or 3 hours at night and early in the morning so that I can catch up on charts to have time with my family in the weekend, because I rather, especially COVID, we're in healthcare, we're wearing masks. We're still unfortunately, we're doing all these things to protect the patients and keep people healthy. But I have someone who it's hard of hearing and you can't look at your computer. So you're shouting at them to try to hear through a mask and they can't read your lips anymore. And you spend that time and they're like, okay, now I'm overbooked on this patient and now I'm running late to my next. And I'm not going to get lunch today and I'm not going to, I'm going to have to rush through this. And, you're mad at you and get your paperwork done. And it's a weird balance. And I think a lot of people don't, if you're not in healthcare, you don't understand.
And I know I personally am getting hit with that even more since COVID started. I mean, it's just, there's not enough hours in the day. There's too many patients.
Yeah. Too many patients and not enough providers sometimes.
Yeah, it's wild. Well, to close, especially with some of the challenges we just described, I would love for you to just tap into some resources for our listeners. A lot of the times with these Enneagram episodes, people are listening and they might not know their type, and maybe just hearing a little bit about you, they're like, wow, that's exactly what I think about all day, every day. Maybe I'm a type 6. What would you recommend for them, regardless of their specialty? Let's say they really want to tap in, some of their emotions when it comes to sticking up for their patients, being loyal. What are some resources to help balance all of those emotions? What are some resources to kind of develop within? Maybe some things you've tried or just things you recommend as a healthcare provider?
I think as far as being a advanced practice or a nurse practitioner kind of PA said, have a good supervising physician and good support from that. Because having a supervising who's really to say, how can we help work-life balance? How can we help you not feel burnout? How can we keep you and not lose you because you're burnout? And having those resources. I think having a good support system from staff and finding a fit. If your job is not a good fit, finding a fit that works for you, maybe a different specialty, maybe a different type of practice, a different setting, but finding that healthcare role that you feel like you have some people you can be friends with, because you're with these people a lot of the day. And so having people that you can shoot the breeze with and have a moment away for a few minutes is always really good. And you have to have staff friends, almost friendships with your staff so that you can laugh with each other, because if you can't, you're not going to get through the day. And I think having outside activities, it's not the easiest to do. I know my last year, I have an 11-month-old. And so my last year has been taking care of a little one and a 3-year-old. And so outside of work, that work-life balance has not been there, but trying to find a hobby, or if it's exercise or something you can do for yourself, even if it's just a short time, because burnout, it will happen. There is no way to get around it. And no matter what you do, you're going to get burnout at some way. And that's really any job, but especially in healthcare. So finding way for balance, because I think as a 6, we forget we need downtime. We want to meet the mark so much that we forget we need to recharge too. And so making sure you're recharging, because then that makes you better for your patients.
And there's always something that can be improved on. So do the workout class and then solve the next world problem tomorrow.
Yeah, it's okay to not get it all done.
Yes.
That day.
That is all amazing advice. Thank you so much. We've really appreciated having you on. And to anyone listening, if you're vibing with what we're talking about and you're thinking you might be a type 6, let's dive in. Obviously, you guys know I love Enneagram Ashton on Instagram. So check out her Instagram handle. I'll be linking all of that into the show notes. So definitely check that out. And if you're not a type 6, I think it's so important to learn about this personality type. That way you can better understand your colleagues, your friends, your family. So I really appreciate you diving in with us. Thank you so much for being on tonight.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for tuning in to the Provider's Report. We hope you found today's episode valuable and inspiring. To stay updated with our latest episodes, subscribe to our podcast wherever you like to listen. For more resources and continuing education opportunities, visit our website. Together, we can make a difference in the lives of our patients and truly set a standard for value-based healthcare.